I think we have liftoff, I like to say.
Okay.
For those folks that are watching live, hello. And for those folks that might be watching on replay, hello as well. I have a friend of mine here with me, and we're just gonna have a little conversation across a few states. Welcome to all of my friends and connections to a friend of mine, John Merrell. John, how are you doing over there?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having me, Toby.
Great, fun. Well, this is fun. You are actually living in the town that I was born and raised in, good old St. Louis, Missouri.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah.
Have you been in St. Louis your whole life?
No, so I grew up in Southern Illinois, and I moved over here about 15 years ago. Yeah. Yeah, I live in a suburb of St. Louis. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What suburb, by the way?
St. Charles.
Okay, yeah. St. Charles. Yeah, I was from Creve Coeur, but I have family in
nice. Yeah.
Benton and High Ridge area. So
small world.
Yeah, it is a very small world. We're connected on some social media platforms as well as have some mutual friends.
Yes.
And we were just kind of chatting, and you're gonna be kind enough to. We were just talking about the whole market and work and life as it were, and how serendipitous some things are. And you've been in you're currently in a leadership position with a national pest control company.
Yes.
And we're in sales, have been in his sales positions before in the past. And I always like to ask people, professionals, especially adults who have been in the business world for a while, I like to ask them to maybe share something, and I'll kind of ask you something specific to see if it jogs anything in particular. But I like to ask questions so that if someone's watching that maybe, I don't know, they're beginning their career, maybe they're just getting out of college or out of school and they're going to start their career, or maybe they're at a point in their life, especially now, where there's going to be some people that maybe need to switch careers or start a new endeavor. I like to kind of give some insight and, share some experiences that people have gone through in the hopes that maybe it could help somebody, somebody else. So first of all, maybe I can ask you about leadership. How do you like being a manager in your role now, as opposed to being more of an individual contributor in the sales side? How do you like being a leader?
I took the position to be a leader because I felt like that our employees and our customers really deserved better than what they were getting. And, I make mistakes every day, but for me, it's really about just trying to grow the team and provide great customer service. I don't look at myself really as being a leader to them. I look at myself as more of a servant to them, to take care of and remove obstacles of what they may encounter to help them be successful.
Yeah, well, that's a great leadership style. I too subscribe to that methodology, if you will, leadership methodology of being a servant leader. Because I think, to your point, I think if you kind of go, you have a team and you're helping people on your team and trying to, like you said, remove obstacles, make their life easier, make your customer and your client's life easier. Yeah, it's a much easier way, to me anyways, to each their own. I know there's different philosophies out there, but I think you're right. I think it's a nice way to influence a team, right, in a positive way.
And people are individuals. I mean, you can't have it white and black and cut and dry. I mean, you have to be able to kind of understand the team that you work with and understand what works for one person may not work for somebody else. And you have to communicate to them and get feedback and constantly try to improve and ask questions of, what can I do better? Or what would you like to see less of? Those types of things.
Yeah, it's such a good point. Now, you mentioned customer service, and I know your industry right now is considered essential. So you're still working, you're still busy every day on the job and out there in the field. What's important to you when it comes to customer service? I can tell the times we've talked about this, just now, especially you're a big believer in making sure that your customers have a really great experience. You're a customer-centric kind of a person. What is good customer service to you?
Well, I think, it's a privilege to service a customer. I mean, there's a lot of companies out there that can service them. And if you don't service them, somebody else will. I was told a long, long time ago when I worked for Transworld Airlines, to treat the customer the way you would want somebody to treat your parents. which is better than you want them to treat yourself.
Yeah, that's a
right?
great point. That's a great point.
So I think that, to give good customer service is really about listening to your customer. You're going to drop the ball sometimes, but things can be fixed. But you need to talk to them about, what you can do, and sometimes there's things you can't do.
Yeah, but being
Along those
honest,
lines.
right?
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, being open, not lying, being transparent, all those things. You mentioned you were in the airline industry.
Uh-huh.
Do you have any feelings about the airline industry and how everything's been so impacted with this whole COVID-19? I can't imagine.
It's such a shame, and I have a lot of friends that still work for the airlines.
Yeah.
Um, I was laid off from the airlines the first time in 1991 during the Gulf War, and I
No.
got a job selling cars. That was one of the jobs I was doing, was selling cars for a year, and then in 19 or after 9/11, I basically lost my job in the airline industry after 17 years
Wow.
because I wasn't going to get called back. And so eventually I got into a sales job there, working for Cisco Foods, selling groceries. So I can't imagine, I don't know what's going on exactly in terms of them working, but nobody's flying, then,
Yeah.
people are going to get laid off, and there's a huge financial impact to every industry across the country.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you bring up a really good point, and I just thought about it as you were saying it. What if somebody's watching? Do you have any words of wisdom? You had to make some choices, some decisions. You had to change. You had been doing the same thing for 17 years. It's a long time to have, to be in one field,
Yeah.
and then you had to totally change because things changed around you, right? So you had to
Yeah.
figure out
So,
another route.
life changes. I mean,
Mhm.
in the current job you're in or whatever, I mean, life's changing all the time, and you have to be able to adapt with that and understand. And, I got into sales because I like people and I like helping people. And so for me, it was a good natural fit. Um, Later on in my life, I went to college. I graduated from college later on in my life because I wanted to move up in the business world. I went to night school for 5 years and got a degree
Okay.
in business.
Wow.
So I think that, you know, you can do whatever you want to do. You just really have to put your mind to it, and you have to accomplish it. And you need to get maybe some help from people like
Yeah.
yourself, a business coach. I mean, you
Yeah.
know, maybe you need that. Maybe you need education. If you're in sales and you're in a slump, maybe you need to evaluate, how many prospects you have in the funnel, or, are you going to seminars? Are you reading books? Are you trying to get better? Um, Life's about improving yourself each and every day. And because if you're not improving yourself, then, what's the point?
Yeah, you're speaking my language. I'm with you there, John. I'm a big believer in the whole subject and topic of personal development. And to your point, that's what life's, to me anyways, that's one of the big components of life, is growing and, like you said, developing. I know you're a fan of Zig Ziglar, as am
I
I.
am. I
How
am.
did you get turned on, or how did your eyes get open, however you want to phrase it, to that
Sure.
whole world of personal development? Because it's something that some people watching are like, maybe I've seen a quote or something from that guy Zig Ziglar or Tony Robbins or some of that, but like, to some people it just doesn't, they just have no use for it. How did your life, come to
So I would
like
say
that?
my brother was in sales his whole life. And so when I lost my job with TWA and I started working in car sales, he sent me some tapes and so I had a 20-minute drive every morning to get to my dealership, and I would listen to these different tapes. And Zig Ziglar, obviously one of my favorites. Brian Tracy is one of my favorites. And read his book, Eat the Frog. I love that book. So I wanted to be successful. And so I would talk to other people that knew what they were doing and try to learn a little bit from them. And then I would try to hone my craft. I mean, can you imagine if you went to go to see the doctor or the dentist and they hadn't done anything since 30 years ago when they went to school? I mean,
Yeah.
you have to continue to try to get better and hone your craft and learn from other people. and self-educate and learn through trial and error too.
Yeah, I hear. I agree. It's interesting how I talk about it all the time. You know, a lot of people think that they get better by osmosis, like just practicing every day, right? They're like, well, I grow every day. I wake up and I don't know, I'm improving every day. And I'm like, well, but to your point, granted, we're going through the motions and doing what we know, but to really grow, to really expand your horizons, to really get outside of your comfort zone and to develop, yeah, you have to somehow get outside of yourself, whether that's through mentors, through coaches, through great leaders like yourself. You know, you have to through other people, through reading
Yeah.
books. Do you like to read books? Are you an audio book kind of
I
guy? Do you
love
like
to
reading?
read books, and I would recommend for any salesperson, what worked for me was to listen, in between calls, to listen to motivational speakers like Zig Ziglar, and you'll pick up all different kinds of tips and tricks, and it'll build that enthusiasm.
Yeah.
So make the call. Zig Ziglar says that enthusiasm, the last four letters stand for I am sold myself. So
I never heard that. That's great. I didn't ever
so
catch
I
that.
think it's important because enthusiasm sells. Money buys, but enthusiasm sells. So I think it's important to, Zig, and I'm sure you've heard this one is, well, it doesn't last. And he says, well, neither does a bath. That's why I recommend it daily.
Yep.
And so I would listen to calls. In between calls, I'd listen to tapes of different people that I liked. And then every night before I'd go to bed, I'd read 20 minutes, maybe from like the Little Red Sales book or 1001 Closes. My favorite book actually is from a guy named Jeb Blunt. It's called Fanatical Prospecting. It is amazing.
John, we did not plan this. I kid you not. That's one of my favorite books, probably, if not my favorite book. I kid you not.
Really?
And he's got obviously
So,
People Buy You or People Like You. Oh gosh, I'm gonna mess up his other one now that I got that one book in it. People Like You, People Buy You. Jeb Blunt's got a series. He's probably got other books that I'm missing. That book. Fanatical Prospecting, I'm with you. It's
amazing.
It's an easy read. Like I like the way it's written. I like Jeb's all of the way he writes. Like as a writer, he connects. So that's so funny. And our friend Doug, that we have a mutual friend, he loves that book as well and loves Jeb Blunt as well.
My boss gave me that book for Christmas, and he used to work with Jeb Blunt, so he knew Jeb really well.
No kidding.
So he gave me the book. And one of the things he talks about in the book, and I think a lot of salespeople miss this, is when you start talking about your pipeline's your lifeline, and how much you put in the funnel. I'll give you a perfect example and break it down simply. But let's say that you have 4 prospects in your pipeline and your closing percentage is 25%. And so you sell one, you got 3 prospects. Well, a lot of salespeople say, well, I need 1 more prospect in that pipeline. And Jeb will tell you, no, you need 4 more, because the other 3 aren't going to buy.
That's right.
So, I mean, everything he says is spot on. I've read that book. I've used that book in sales presentations with my sales team, and broke down different chapters and stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, that is too funny. No, that's a good. We'll have to talk. Well, maybe we'll have to do a book review or a book club or something, because I'm serious. I'd love to. No joke. We'll have to talk about that, because I would love to talk more about books like that, of that kin.
Sure.
That's great. Anybody you follow that you really like, while I'm on that topic, aside from, Mr. Blunt, and any other person you like their podcast, or you like to follow them on LinkedIn or anything like that?
I'm on LinkedIn every day, and I'm always looking at posts that people make and commenting on those. And, a lot of it, I wouldn't say I follow anyone in particular. I just like that motivation and those types of things.
Yeah, me too. It's funny. I was just speaking with a friend of mine the other day about this, and her and I were agreeing that there's a different style. There again, to each their own, right? That's what makes the world go round. Everyone has different styles. But we were talking about some of I won't mention his name because we weren't, her and I agreed he was a little braggadocious, this particular teacher, speaker, mentor, if you will. And he's online a lot. And he's always really cocky almost, kind of just bragging, and kind of demeans other people. And I don't know, his style is certainly not one of like a Zig Ziglar or a Jim Rohn, or, somebody that's humble and that is kind and that, anyways, but it's funny how different things resonate. The point her and I were talking about is, like I said, you know what though? That doesn't maybe resonate as much with me, someone who's like in your face and yelling and kind of putting you down. But this person had like 50 million people that follow his page. So obviously to some people that works, right? That resonates. To me, I like a different kind of a style.
Sure. Well, Toby, I mean, it's just like when you go out and sell people, what works for one prospect may not work for another. Some people might want to be in charge of the whole thing, and the other people want you to tell them what they need. I mean, I think I read somewhere there's 12 different personalities of selling. So it's the same thing. I mean,
yeah, great point. Yeah, what works for one person or speaks to one person might not speak to the other. Yeah, great point. How are you doing with this whole, change in environment that we're going through right now? Anything, that you've kind of been thinking about, or anything that maybe you've read that's kind of, resonating with you right now as we're in uncharted territory, if you will?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for these businesses. They're closed, and they don't have any revenue coming in, and their employees don't have a job, and people are laying people off. But there are companies that are hiring too. There's other companies that are benefiting really from this. For us, when it comes to adapting to the change, our company recently came out with a disinfecting service. So we are going to businesses that have been closed down, or even some that are still open, and offering this disinfecting service to recoup some of that lost revenue from the pest control business, and also to provide a service and a peace of mind for these customers.
Sorry, hit mute on you. So so you guys are kind of adjusting, like you said, kind of making the most of what you can do. And, hey, to your point, everyone right now, I think, has to be a little flexible. It's kind of the name of the game.
Sure. I mean, you have to find other streams of revenue, in businesses when the stream that you're in is drying up.
That's right. They always say too, in every market, there's opportunity if you just look for it.
Right.
Well, like I said, we'll have to talk offline. And if anyone's interested, you have to comment from my groups where this will be posted. If anyone like to do some masterminds or some books where we're sharing some our insights and things that we like. I love to do things like that because I like the saying that none of us is as smart as all of us. So I love learning from other people and hearing what other people take away from the same material. So we'll have to talk about that offline. If you'd like to, I'd love to do that.
Sure. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, I love to talk sales. Anytime somebody wants to talk about sales, I'm all in.
Yeah, it's fun stuff. Yeah, we're very similar in that way. That's funny. I wonder if it has something to do because we're both, you're in St. Louis now. Maybe people in the Midwest in general, right? Even in Illinois, maybe there's something about Midwest and salespeople.
Maybe, it's all about helping people. That's all it is.
Right. You're right, though. It is. It's about, if you have that frame of mind, you're right. It really makes a big difference in sales, especially, and in leadership. So, all right, my friend, is there I know you mentioned LinkedIn. If anyone's out there, and they're into personal development, into sales, and into enriching their lives, can they connect with you on LinkedIn?
Absolutely. Like I said, I'm on LinkedIn every day. And, I connect with people all the time, and I love to talk sales and business. So, and barbecue. That's my
barbecue. Oh, okay. We'll have to do another talk all about barbecue. I'd like to hear about that too. All right, my friend. Well, listen, John, I'll let you get to your evening. I know you've been working hard all day, so I appreciate you jumping on.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me, Toby.
All right. I'll talk to you again soon.
Right, bye-bye.
All right. Take care. Bye.